Hi, I'm Chris Wardlaw for Car Gurus, and this is the 2016 Jeep Grand Cherokee. For nearly 25 years, the Grand Cherokee's been one of the best-selling SUVs in America. The funny thing about this Jeep's success is that most people say reliability is important when they buy a new vehicle, and I'm being kind when I tell you that according to Consumer Reports, the Grand Cherokee's track record in this respect is average at best. So what gives? This is what I think. The Jeep Grand Cherokee delivers the dream, the ability to go almost anywhere at almost any time. It is a rolling representation of freedom, an escape pod from the daily grind, an emblem of what has made America great for 240 years. And it's built in Detroit, with 20% of the parts coming from Mexico. Shh, don't tell you know who. Granted, most Grand Cherokee owners just chug along in traffic or whip around the suburbs in them. But you never know when you're going to need this Jeep's trail-rated capability, whether for tackling a blizzard or the great outdoors. So how does the Grand Cherokee work as a daily driver? Let's find out. Now, if you don't know Jeeps and you're interested in the Grand Cherokee because it looks rugged and cool, rest assured that if you get four-wheel drive and set it up right, it's going to take you places that you never thought you could go. Just do yourself a big favor and take a professional off-roading lesson before you head too deep into the wild. Now, my test vehicle has four-wheel drive, and it's decked out in Overland trim, which provides my favorite aluminum wheel design. It's not the top-of-the-line model, but it's close. The price starts at $45,190, and in addition to four-wheel drive, my test vehicle has a 19-speaker sound system and an advanced technology package that installs a whole bunch of safety and driver assistance technologies. That brings the total of my test vehicle to $51,180. Now, you can save $3,000 and get a Grand Cherokee Overland with rear-wheel drive, but I cannot for the life of me understand why anyone would do that. Multiple engines are available for the Grand Cherokee, and they all get a warranty demotion for 2016, going from a 100,000 mile powertrain warranty to 60,000 miles. My test vehicle has the standard engine. It's a 3.6 liter V6, and it's making 295 horsepower. Now that's more than last year, and Jeep says it has taken steps to improve the Grand Cherokee's fuel economy for 2016. Those steps include an automatic engine stop-start system, some aluminum suspension components, an electric steering system, and low rolling resistance tires. What's the end result? Well, I averaged 18.7 miles per gallon on my test loop, and the EPA says I should have gotten 21 miles per gallon. So it seems like maybe Jeep has got a little ways to go. If you really care about fuel economy, consider getting the optional EcoDiesel 3-liter diesel engine. I tested that last year, and I got almost 23 miles per gallon. Now, another change this year is that the 8-speed automatic transmission gets a new shifter, one that works like every console shifter has for decades. So now, when you buy a Grand Cherokee, you don't need to think about what you're doing when you're trying to choose park or reverse or drive. You just do it. When you drive a Grand Cherokee, it is obvious that it's more substantial than your typical crossover SUV. This is clearly a vehicle that's engineered to go places and to do things, and the sense of heft and capability is palpable from the driver's seat. Now, most of the time, this Jeep's ultimate mission of off-roading forces a bit of a compromise in terms of daily driving. Jeep does its best to smooth out the ride and to ensure secure handling, but there's no escaping the truck-like dynamics here. The switch to electric steering has lightened effort levels, but hasn't really sharpened response or eliminated a sense of on-center disconnectedness, and these are necessary evils in a vehicle that's designed for serious off-roading. One thing you will like, though, is the super tight turning circle, which makes parking and making U-turns and three-point turns really easy. Now, with the V6 engine, acceleration is fairly impressive. You're not going to need the optional V8 unless you really want maximum towing capacity, which is 7,400 pounds. Braking is capable, but the pedal does feel a little bit dissatisfying. The ride quality takes some getting used to. Despite my test vehicle's Quadralift air suspension, it feels kind of wobbly and woozy on anything but smooth pavement. And make sure you don't take corners at more than just a moderate speed. One thing that I will say though is that on really lousy pavement, this Jeep just pummels the road into submission. You barely feel it. Now, one thing that's important in any family vehicle is safety. And as of March of 2016, the federal government had not performed crash tests on the 2016 model year Grand Cherokee. They tested last year's model, but they didn't carry the ratings over the way that the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety did. Now, as far as the IIHS crash test rating, it is marginal for the small overlap frontal impact test, and that means that this Jeep is not qualified for a top safety pick. Now, my test vehicle does have an optional advanced technology package, and that installs a blind spot monitoring system, rear cross traffic alert, forward collision warning, automatic emergency braking, front and rear, by the way, and an adaptive cruise control system. But this package is a little bit pricey. It costs about $2,000. The Grand Cherokee's back seat is a little bit snug for adults, especially if you've got longer legs or you're a bigger person like me. The front seat backs are hard plastic. They're not kind to knees and shins. There's not a lot of leg room here. But I will say that if you've got teenagers, they're going to be really happy going on a road trip in this car, because not only do they have air vents back here, but they have dual USB ports. There is this 3-prong power outlet and heated rear seats. Now, I left my daughter's child safety seat in here for a specific reason. Number one, I wanted to show you how much space there is. But number two, I wanted to explain that this particular make and model of child seat and the Jeep's latch anchors, highly incompatible. I had a very difficult time latching this thing into the recessed latch anchors. Also, my wife and I have both noticed that it's really difficult to use the seatbelt anchor in this vehicle. It's recessed deep in the seat, and that's so that it's not poking you in the back or in the butt when you're sitting in the seat. But the problem with that is that it's impossible for my daughter to latch herself, and it's really difficult for her parents to do it. So if you're buying a Grand Cherokee and you're planning to use it to haul kids around, make sure that these are not going to be issues for you. Now, even though the Grand Cherokee has the word grand in its name, this is not a big vehicle, and that's on purpose. It needs to be outstanding when it's off-roading, and that means it needs to be dimensionally small, highly maneuverable. Of course, that translates to a smaller interior than you might expect. You may have noticed that when I got in, I almost hit my head on the roofline. That's because the door is not very wide, and I'm concerned about hitting my head every time I get in the vehicle. My wife, who likes to sit with the passenger seat up high, has been complaining that it's difficult to get in and out. She suggested that maybe Jeep should put a handle up here on this A-pillar to assist her in. I suggested that maybe she should lower the seat, and you can imagine where that got me. Now, once you're in the Jeep, it is fairly comfortable. These are firm seats, and you sit on them rather than in them. Now, one thing I might want to mention is that I did have a passenger in here who was a little bit smaller than me, and he was complaining that he was sliding all over between the bolsters, that they were basically ineffective. So maybe Jeep is targeting a more well-fed buyer for this particular vehicle. Generally speaking, Jeep does a great job of laying out the Grand Cherokee's controls, with one exception. If you want to access seat heating or seat ventilation or steering wheel heating, you have to use the touchscreen. There aren't any buttons here on the dashboard or the center console. Now, this year, Jeep offers a partial solution for that. There's a drag and drop feature associated here with the infotainment system. You click apps, and then you can move the icons around, and you can put them in this lower bar. Of course, you've got to give something up. I mean, the real estate's not free, so you have to move something out of there and then put the seat heater, the seat ventilation, or the steering wheel heating right there on your main menu bar. I found that people are unlikely to do that. They're more likely to just take the one step, hit this button that says controls, and then choose heated seat, vented seat, or heated steering wheel. Really, what's needed here is some buttons. Now, if you want to activate the four-wheel drive system, that's pretty easy. You can just push this button right here to get four-wheel drive low, and the rest of the time it is automatically going to engage four-wheel drive for you, depending on the situation. Now, this knob here in the center is for the select terrain system, and that allows you to set the traction control system depending on what type of a surface you are traversing. These buttons here are for the Quadra-Lift air suspension. You can raise it so that you can get up to 10.4 inches of ground clearance, or you can lower it to make it easier to get in and out, or drive in aero mode on the freeway to improve your fuel economy. Now overall, it doesn't take long to acclimate to the Jeep's controls or its infotainment system. I think they've done a very good job here. When it's time to put cargo into the Jeep, you just push that button twice. Tailgate powers open to reveal 36.3 cubic feet of cargo space. Now the reason that number's a little small and on par with your typical compact crossovers because compact crossovers don't have a full-size spare underneath the cargo floor. And that's important because when you're off-roading and you're out in the middle of nowhere and you cut your sidewall on a rock, you want to be able to get out of there and get home. So loading is fairly easy. Got a full-size suitcase here. Put that in. You could put two of those side by side and stack them if you get rid of this. Or you can take the cargo cover out, flip those up on their side. And that does leave enough space back here between the tailgate and the luggage to put duffel bags, or you can put a compact folding stroller in just like that. If you fold the rear seats down, you've got 68.3 cubic feet of cargo space, which is also on the small side for what's a mid-size SUV. One nice thing I like about this power tailgate is that Jeep puts the button here instead of up here, so that when you're on your way back to the driver's seat, you just push that button and say, see you later. There are basically two reasons to buy a Jeep Grand Cherokee. One is for towing capacity, the other is for its off-roading capability. If you're not planning to do either of these things, and you just like the way this Jeep looks, or you're drawn to the SUV by its rugged image, that's cool, I get that. My only warning to those people is this: the price to be paid for the styling and the image is significant. As long as you're willing to accept that, then you're probably going to be delighted with the Jeep Grand Cherokee. Be sure to check out my full review of this Jeep on CarGurus.com. And if you found this review helpful, please share this video and subscribe to our YouTube channel. For all of us at CarGurus, thank you for watching.